We are here at the healing garden of the Botsford Inn, which is a commemorative to what was here when Clara Ford helped her husband get the inn together. This building has been part of the community going back to the very beginning. In 1830, they had the first road running through this area, and at that time, Allen Weston had this property which he had his brother Orrin take over, and when Orrin took over, there was a corduroy road that people could run on. That was 1836. By 1839, that's about 3 years later, they were stopping here for a tavern, but I think people could also spend the night here. Westons didn't keep the property too long. They sold it, and there was a man named Benjamin Springer who had a bouncy red coach that ran between here and the interior to the Grand River. The Grand River was significant because there was a trading post there, and the trading post was more important at that point than anything else. Before long, he sold out to a man named Stephen Jennings, who not only enhanced the inn, but also added 2 houses, one for his family, which was along Grand River and has since been saved, and another one that he built for his daughter Phoebe, or Jane, when she married Eber Derman. That house has also been moved and is now on 13 Mile Road. And it wasn't until 1860 when Milton Botsford, who already had a little sort of a inn along Shiawassee and Farmington Road, bought this inn, the 16 Mile House, and turned it into the Botsford Inn that was a stopping place for drovers and people coming from Detroit. By 1924, they were going to widen Grand River, and the inn was right on the highway. And if you look at the meridian of the road in Grand River, that's where the original inn was. Henry Ford heard about this, purchased it, and restored it. The Fords used this more or less as a non-profit organization. They had many parties here, and they did a lot of civic work with it. They also had it open for the community, but as a fairly expensive place to go. We underestimate Clara. Clara Ford was very active in keeping women's rights, and she had an organization that she established, the Women's National Farm and Garden Society, and she even designed a roadside stand so that farm women could sell their produce themselves and put in their activities. She was granted for her activity a doctoral degree from Berry College, and it was Dr. Clara Ford. The inn was maintained by the Fords, and Clara had multiple fundraisers here and parties for the society she belonged to. She was president of the Rose Society and the Delphinium Society and the Gladiola Society, all of which were part of the grounds. When Henry Ford died in 1947, and then Clara died in 1950. In 1950, they sold this property, and a family by the name of Anhunt came in. John Anhunt, the son of this family, ran this inn until 1999, when Botsford Hospital took over. It was here that many people from this community were married and enjoyed the inn. They had dinners here, societies met here, and it has a special place in the hearts of everybody in Farmington. It was 1999 that the Anhuts sold off some of their property to the Ziegler Hospital, wanted to develop a special cancer center. So it's been taken back to Henry and Clara Ford's vision of the inn and what they had at that time to preserve it. But it was will always have a special place and a special use here in our community. It has been updated to use for what the community needs are at any particular time in our history. Now we'll go and meet Mr. Ferguson, who is in charge of the construction here at Botsford Hospital. Hi, Dave. This is a pleasure to be with you here. Now, you designed the whole thing?
Botsford's architect, and I worked on both the cancer center and the inn restoration, but we had architects on both. Marshall Erdman out of Madison, Wisconsin did the cancer center, and Bill Finicum of Franklin, Michigan did the architectural work for the restoration of the exterior of the inn.
How did the old Botsford Inn influence the design of the cancer center?
Well, we worked quite a bit trying to come up with a composition here that included the inn, that didn't overwhelm it. And then we started working with the fenestration, with the rhythm of the columns in the front of the inn, trying to take that into the windows of the cancer center. And originally the cancer center was a mirror image where the entryway was on the western side, and it just no matter what view we took of it, it seemed to overwhelm the inn. So at one point we just took the cancer center and flipped the whole image of it and started looking at renderings of that, and boy, it just worked a lot better visually. And then we tried to take it, tie it together with this trellis, and it really blended together. And I've actually had people uncoached to ask me, boy, did you think about that, because it goes together so well? And yeah, we spent quite a bit of time trying to make it look cohesive.
And what are your plans for the future of the inn?
Well, the exterior is going to be completed here. The interior is unrestored right now, and our hope is to take it back to, like the exterior, to what Henry Ford had done back in the mid-1920s. And at that point, the lower level would be used for various Botsford functions and functions with the cancer center. The upstairs would be offices for our foundation.
Well, it's very, very, very pleasant to have this lovely garden that you put between the two.
Yes, it is.
Who came up with this, and how did they decide to do it?
As part of the process of eliminating the Anhut family additions to the inn, moving the barn to the Stewart's property up on 13 Mile, we agreed to try to restore the Clara Ford Rose Garden, which started here and went to the far eastern border of the property. And then we started looking at healing gardens for the cancer center, and we thought it was a good connection between the two. Mr. Riley donated the funds, and so we've built it out, trying to use historical Michigan plants. And the design of it was a collaboration between a landscape designer for Marshall Erdman, the architect of the inn, and Bill Finicum, the architect of the the cancer center, and then Bill Finicum for the inn.
Mrs. Ford had all sorts of different plants. She had delphiniums and a lot of other plants that were her organizations that she belonged to besides the roses. But I think everybody remembers her roses more than anything.
Well, we have a few, but we're trying to keep them to easily maintainable.
Yes.
We were hoping that a garden group might want to adopt this, and we could do more exotic things, but we have to try to make it practical too.
Yes, well, those roses she was the president of the Rose Society, and she always brought these people here to have functions and various other things.
Right.
So it's apropos. But she was always doing something for the women of the community too. So maybe you could get some ladies that will help you out.
We're hoping.
Very good. Well, we're very happy in the community to have the inn preserved as much as you can, and it's a shame we had to take Mr. Anhut's wings off.
Well, that's the way most people in the community remember the inn is the Anhut era, where it had a several foot long balcony and facade across the front, but 80% of that was built since 1950, so it wasn't historical, and the agreement we had with the Historic District Commission was we would take it back to what Henry Ford had done.
Yeah.
And I think that's been our driving force. The Henry Ford Museum, Greenfield Village, has extensive photographs of what Henry had done. He took photographs of it before he moved it, and then all during the construction process, and then afterwards. And so that was very helpful in our research for its restoration.
Now the barn is being put to good use where it is out there on 13 Mile Road.
Yes,
and,
at the Stewart's house.
Yeah.
Have you seen it since it's been?
Oh yes, we've had a party in there already.
Yes, it's very nice that it could be reused and remated with the Eber-Durham house.
Yes, it's great. Of course, Eber-Durham house was built. I always call it Jane's house because Stephen Jennings built that for his daughter when she got married.
Right,
So,
Jane Durham.
Jane or
Right,
Phoebe
became-
is actually was her name. So the location for that has been changed too because they had at one time they had a dairy in there in the house or next to the house. And then of course Henry Ford's housekeeper, the lady that kept the house, lived in there. The Shaws lived
Right.
there. So a few things are gone. They were gone before you acquired the inn, and it has to fit, I guess, the needs of our community as it grows. So
But they've all been preserved in Farmington Hills, which is very nice.
you're doing a fantastic job with this, and we thank you.
Well, thank you.
Diane, what are your future plans for the building?
Well, we're hoping that the community will partner with us in raising money to restore the inn. We're hoping that most of the first floor will be restored to its 1925 appearance, the way Henry Ford made it look. And we're going to use the back rooms here at the back of the inn for patient activity. And we'll have a library that patients and their families can research information about cancer and understand their diseases and their treatments better. Then we'll also have support groups meeting here, and we'll have social activities as well. And one of the nice things about the Riley Garden is that they'll be able to spill out onto the patio in nice weather.
This is wonderful, and I see you have some roses to remind us of Mrs. Ford and some of the wonderful things that she did for the community. She's very underestimated.
We're very pleased that we can honor her tradition of having a lovely garden here at the Botsford Inn, and very pleased that it's going to serve as a healing and a respite for patients and families. And the staff will probably take advantage of it too when they're on their breaks.
Yes, well, she had 70 people that came from Ford's to keep up her gardens. She had delphiniums and all sorts of things besides her roses. So this is lovely that we have some part of it left.
Well, and we don't have a staff of 70, so our garden is a little bit simpler, but we work very hard at making the garden appropriate to the era when the Fords were making this a beautiful site again.
And you need a little help yet from the community for donations to restore the inn.
We do indeed. One of the things that we decided was that we could not use dollars that had been donated for health care to restore the inn, but we think it's such an important part of our community that we're hoping that we will find champions in the Farmington Hills area. And whether it's someone who can donate $1.5 million to have their name recognized throughout, or someone who wants to make a more modest contribution, we have that availability. One of the really delightful things I think that's happening is we have a brick plaza in front of the Botsford Inn, and people in the community are to buy commemorative bricks, and they may remember a wedding that took place at the Botsford Inn, or some other special event, or perhaps just a loved one who enjoyed spending time at the inn in the past.
Yes, there were a lot of people that loved this inn and loved to eat here and they were married here and had all sorts of lovely parties here.
Well, I spent my wedding night at the Botsford Inn, so it's a place that has a little bit of a special spot in my heart.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming and telling us about this.
You're welcome.